don't participate in your own oppression. And much like our next headline here, which is our Uncle Tony, again another amazing candidate for a potential cannabis producer in Ireland. Sure, who better than the boys who are up there growing the old spuds? Like, you know, if they're growing good spuds, sure, maybe they'll be able to grow some good buds. Do you know? So Uncle Tony was up before the courts again today, or was it yesterday? I thought this was actually yesterday. But interestingly enough, I'm not too sure what the crack was here with the case, because this case was up before the courts about just over 6 weeks ago, and the judge refused to preside over it. She refused jurisdiction. This was the Judge Kelly, Terry Kelly, I think was her name. But Judge Kelly, anyway, refused jurisdiction over this, as she said the crime was too outside of the jurisdiction of the court. Despite KEOGHS barristers successfully arguing the valuation of the cannabis plants from 19,500 down to 7,800 based upon the maturity of the plants. He actually effectively argued the value of the plants down to €200 a plant. Interesting, like I've never seen somebody else before the courts been able to kind of argue now the valuation of their plants. But you know, this is kind of the two-tier system that exists. You know, if you come from a well-established spud farmer family, as Tony Keogh came from, Keogh's Crisps, you know, you get treated differently from the old young fella growing a bit of cannabis for his own personal use there above in Ballymun, or you know, above in Knocknaheeny. But the drug supply charge was withdrawn last month after, again, the Gardaí said that they were satisfied that none of the cannabis would have been destined for the illicit drugs market. Again, could me or you been able to argue that to the judge? Do you know, if I got caught with my own cannabis for my own personal use, could I go in and say to the judge, well, judge, look, go easy on me, because look, I wasn't ever going to sell it. Like, I wasn't even giving it to my friends. Like, would you go easy on me then, judge? Would you? No, you wouldn't. No, and you would be like, oh no, you got caught with 4 plants. You got caught with 3 jars of cannabis. Like, the 3 jars of cannabis were worth €4,000. Well, you must be dealing it. That's a lot of cannabis for one person to have, isn't it? And that's exactly what the judge would be saying. They wouldn't accept my argument that, look, judge, this was for my own personal use. Now, Tony Keogh's reasoning was that it was a research project, project to produce a food supplement. But again, even if I put forward that argument, I'm a herbal scientist. I would love to be able to grow my own cannabis and produce my own herbal food supplement. But unfortunately, no, I'm not allowed to that, because it's behind a load of barriers and restrictions because of the prohibition of cannabis. You need the license to be able to produce cannabis in Ireland, and that's what people get criminised for. If you're brought to court for cultivation of cannabis, it's cultivation of cannabis without a license. That's what you get charged for. And anybody out there who's been caught with cannabis has been charged and convicted on it, I'll bet you you'll be able to back that one up. You were charged with a conviction of cultivation of cannabis without a license. Please tell me where I can get a license, because I would love to apply for one. Like, you know, I would love to be able to grow my cannabis and not be criminalised for it. But unfortunately, no, my acts of civil disobedience are garnering a lot of attention there from the media. But the old Tony Keogh there now is getting now favourable treatment. Well, interestingly, you know, the judge wouldn't see the case in the district court and, you know, follow the DPP's directions, which would have been a dismissal upon the DPP was, the Director of Public Prosecutions directed summary disposal on a guilty plea only. So that's what the DPP. So basically, that means, like, if he pleaded guilty, he could have been dealt with a summary dismissal, almost like a slap on the wrist, like no jail time necessary. They could have gave him maybe a 6 months suspended sentence or something silly like that, if anything at all. Again, the man has not really been in trouble. He doesn't have a criminal past. Like, so it'll be very interesting to see how this will be dealt with. He's going before the Criminal Circuit Court on Friday. So hopefully on Friday's 420 News, I'll be able to touch back on this one and have a verdict in the case of Tony Keogh. But again, as I say, like, it's ridiculous, like the two-tier system that exists there, successfully being able to argue the value of his plants down, like, you know, being able to convince the courts that this wasn't for supply to the black market. And, you know, all right, he missed out in the third one. He nearly got the old, you know, the home run. He nearly hit the three of them, like. But unfortunately, the judge wouldn't see it in the district court. So now he's going to the circuit court, where he could face a harsher punishment if the judge sees fit to give him a jail sentence. Let's see what happens there. Like, you know, my all bets for me anyway is that Tony Keogh is going to get an old slap on the wrist. Like, the worst thing that's coming his way is going to be a suspended sentence. I reckon he's going to get maybe a bit of a hefty fine with no suspended sentence. Look, here's your conviction, no real sentence, and there's your fine. Pay the fine and good luck. That's my guess. That's, like, you know, I don't know. I imagine if he got before his buddy. Imagine if the judge at the circuit court was a buddy of his, or a buddy of his family's, or something like that, or just a big fan of the crisps, and he says, go on away home, Tony. Well, we'll leave this one out. We'll strike out the charges there. Look, go on away home, man. You're a good fella. Do you know? Oh, it wouldn't surprise me, like, you know. But as I say, guys, Friday anyway, we'll follow up on that one again. Can they use the Spud guy now as legal precedent? 100% people can use the Spud guy as legal precedent now before the courts. Look at the plant in the picture. That plant in the picture is about maybe 12 to 16 inches tall. It's a nice plant. It's got a good couple of nodes there, got lovely leaves on it and everything. It's nicely grown plant. He was able to argue the value of a nice one there, Fap to this. Lovely name. But he was able to argue the value of that plant down to 200 quid. So if he can do it, guys, you know, if you've got a vegetative plant out there, and if you've been brought before the courts, like, there's precedent now after being set by Tony Keogh's barristers in the courts that they were able to successfully argue the value of a cannabis plant based on its maturity down to €200. They could have got it down to less. Maybe he had more mature plants there and they kept a high value in them, which would mean actually they got it down to a bit less possibly. So again, you know, interesting case. There is precedent being set here now. So definitely, guys, if you've been caught with cannabis plants and they're not in a flowering state, €200 a plant there is the going rate now based on this. Unless I can read into it a bit more if they break it down, but based upon the value, he got it written down to €200 a plant. Community service, Peter Kelly saying, yeah, community service. He go work on the family farm as community service. Yeah, if Tony Keogh can use that excuse, then it can be applied to everybody in the same position, says Ross. Definitely, guys, yeah, precedent is being set there on this.